T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us, and this is the fourth session of the Adam Audio series, Women in Music, start to finish. Glad you're all here. I can see a few of you have joined us. It's going to get more, loads more have joined us. Welcome everyone. Do put your comments into the comments box or the chat room on both YouTube and Facebook, wherever you're watching. And I'm now going to get into introducing our panel for today. It's all about A&R and management within the music industry. And we have an esteemed panel here with us today. This is in association with Music Tech and B-Side Project. So I'm going to bring in Kat. Hello, Kat.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. I think that's the first time I've ever been introduced as esteemed. So
there you go.
Well
deserved. Well deserved. So Kat, just let everyone know who you are.
Yes, so my name's Kat. I am general manager at Big Life Management, which is a management artist and producer management company based in London.
Perfect. And now I'm going to bring it in Erin. Hi, Erin.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is such a great group of women y'all put together.
It is indeed. And yes, you all deserve the title of esteemed, believe me. So Erin, let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Erin Anderson, and I run a company called Olivia Management based in Nashville, and I manage musicians, mostly independent in the Americana folk music singer-songwriter space.
Cool, nice one. And now I'm going to bring in Celina. Hello, Celina.
Hello. Hey, how are you? Very good, thank you very much.
Good. And you're over in the US as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay, cool.
So, I run a management company out in Los Angeles. I also do tour management.
Okay, cool. And it's your own company, isn't it?
It is, yeah, Rollon Entertainment.
Perfect. And now I'm going to bring in Cathy. Here we go. Hi, Cathy.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, good, thank you.
Brilliant stuff. So do you let everyone know who you are and what you do in the industry?
Sure. I run a management and producer independent company called Conchord Management, and I also consult for brands and promoters. So I do live events as well.
Perfect. I mean, it's one of these times where it's good to have a few bows to the string, isn't it? Since events have kind of, but we'll talk about that later. And then finally, but not least, let's have a look. We've got Ronnie.
Hello.
Hey, Ronnie, how you doing?
Yes, good, thank you.
Good. Do you want to let everyone know what you do?
Yes, I'm a general manager, artist manager over at various artist management. And I also head up Vision Artists, which is under the same company umbrella, which is a brand partnerships. So I look after all the special projects for all of the artists on our roster and look for additional brand partnership opportunities outside of the roster as well.
Brilliant stuff. I mean, I noticed that kind of a few of you mentioned that about brand partnerships, and of course, it's not just music, especially recent times. It's not just music and the actual music that can bring in revenue for artists and management. It's the actual brand partnerships and the endorsements, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's the important side of A&R and management. Right, that's all the ladies in. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. We've got people coming in. Let's have a look from London, North Macedonia, Berlin, tuning in from Nashville. Here we go. Birmingham, all over the place. And I'm sure we'll get more people telling us where they're from as well. Do let us know that you're there. And also, don't forget to sign up for our giveaway. Adam Audio are giving away a license of the Brainworks BX console from Focusrite to one viewer in every series that we're putting out. So do enter that, and the link will be in the comments on either YouTube or Facebook. So firstly, I'd like to ask you, we're going to do the area of how to get into A&R and management as a career first. Later on, we'll be talking about how artists work with A&R and management, but first it's about how your career can start or progress in A&R and management. And I'd like to ask you all individually how you got into the industry that you're in. So first, Kat, how did you get into where you are?
Well, so I started out doing student radio, and that was my first kind of taste of anything to do with the music industry. Realised that I was spending all my time at university doing that rather than my degree, and thought, hang on a minute, I can try and make a career out of this because I haven't really been doing the other bit. So I wasn't at all intending to get into management, didn't really know what management was. I thought I was looking for a job in radio or PR. But it was a case of doing lots of internships, and I ended up doing some work experience at what was then Sony BMG Records, for a guy called Jim Fletcher, who sadly is no longer with us. And he became a bit of a champion for me. We got on really well together, and he ended up putting me forward for a job for a former colleague of his was now at Big Life. And there was a sort of a junior opening there. And I went for it and got the job, and then I've been there ever since. So I started out at Big Life as an assistant, started on basically answering phones, making tea, just trying to learn as much as possible. Realised very quickly that management was the most exciting place to be, and gave up my other plans because I thought actually this is a much better way to be involved with artists. You get involved in every kind of area of their career, and just fell in love with it straight away. And so then I've kind of worked through various jobs at Big Life. I was a day-to-day manager, and I assisted the legendary Jazz Summers for 8 years. Learned a hell of a lot from him, and now I'm a manager in my own right. I've got a roster of artists and producers, and I also run the management team. So I manage the other management staff at Big Life, just to make sure that all of the managers have got the right admin support, and make sure everybody's working together in the best way possible for the company.
That sounds awesome. So it really is a case of working your way up, and kind of not necessarily being in the right place at the right time, but getting that experience in first, and actually kind of just hustling. Totally. I mean, I knew that I was going to have to end up doing various bits of work experience to get where I wanted to go, but actually the opportunity that came up for me to work at a management company, I took up because, to be honest, it was the first paying job that I could do. Not knowing that management would turn out to be my absolute passion. So I'd worked hard to get in that position, but it was a stroke of luck that actually told me where I wanted to be. Sure. Okay. And Erin, how about you? How did you get to where you are to running your own company?
Sure. Yeah. My story is fairly similar. I feel the same way. My first job out of college, I went to Belmont for undergrad, which is a music business school in the US that is kind of famous for mostly music business. And so I got I got a job at Universal right out of undergrad, and worked at Universal in Nashville, which is mostly country imprints. And we had one like Americana leaning imprint called Lost Highway. And I got this great picture of what the industry looked like from the record label standpoint, and then decided to go back to school, actually, because I just thought I wanted to be my boss, and he had an advanced degree. So I went back to school at Vanderbilt and got my master's in business. And from there got recruited to Amazon Music. So I moved to Seattle, and I worked in Amazon Music in the early 2010s when they were launching really cool new tech products. And I got a really great picture of the industry from the perspective of, retail and music sales and streaming. And then I just kind of felt like, similar to Kat, I wanted to be involved in everything, not just one little piece of the puzzle. And around the time I was kind of getting antsy at my job at Amazon, a friend of mine who was in a band said, "We need a manager." And I just kind of had this moment where a light bulb went on, and I thought, oh, that's everything I want to do. And it utilizes my skills from my business degrees, and I can use my, label contacts and my Amazon contacts. And so I did not work my way up in management. I just started a management company one day, and I would say I kind of like failed my way forward. And I definitely, if I went back and restarted, I have learned a lot and would do the first 3 years very differently. But I just, dove in, and luckily, I had so many great mentors and friends in Nashville that went to coffee with me and helped me learn, what even my job actually was supposed to be, and define that over the years. And so now I've been running the company for almost 9 years. Wow. And it's absolutely grown into my passion, and it's really fun. So I love it.
That's great. And before we move on to Ronnie, actually, there's a note came up. I won't put it up as a question, but Maya says, I wish I wasn't living in Europe in the middle of nowhere to be able to work at any sort of management or music company in general, but we've got nothing here. So you've said that you literally travelled to where the work was. And, is that like a big point? Like, where if you want to get in the music industry, but there's nothing where you live, you're in the middle of the nowhere, in the middle of the sticks. Do you move, or do you try and get an online job first? What would you say, Erin?
Well, I would have answered differently a year ago, but I think now so much has gone digital, and I've learned that I can do my job from anywhere, and I've learned all of the tools. And so I think the benefit of being in the city is that you can do in the future when the cities open back up everywhere, but you can do some real world networking, and you can run into people at a show or a bar and do that. But I think in terms of job function, I think a lot of companies are learning you don't have to physically be there. So I think, you can stay where you are and do some networking, come to events like this, meet people in the chat, and try to open doors that way. I think it's possible now.
I think that's a good answer, Maya. I hope that answers your question, and I hope you do kind of see that it is possible from, even if you are in the middle of nowhere, if you've got the passion, then, make those contacts online, especially after lockdown. Ronnie, how did you get into the industry and where you are now?
Gosh, it's a long time ago. Very old. Kind of like Kat, I started university, I DJ'd and was always sort of involved in the club scene and every opportunity to kind of get involved. I actually kind of decided that I needed to kind of do something different. So I left and went into TV for a bit. Because I just thought that I started out in the sort of dance music side of things. I was like, I needed to kind of do something where I was going to get some sleep. So I went to TV. I did live TV, I did the Big Breakfast and a bunch of those kind of shows. But eventually I realized that my music was my passion. So I actually went from being I got quite far in my sort of TV career and gave it all up and got a job on reception. I just basically asked everybody for a job and started on reception at a dance label and just worked my way up. I did everything. Spent quite a few years working in sort of dance labels, and I went and helped set up an independent label for Groove Armada at the time. I then switched out actually when the internet sort of came along and everyone was running around like headless chickens, not really like knowing what to do with this whole digital thing, with the majors putting their fingers in their ears trying to make it go away. I kind of got out of it for a bit, went on to the brand side of things. And I started to work for Bacardi, and I had a relationship with Groove Armada. I worked on the big global Bacardi partnership, and stayed on doing that for a few years. I was head of music partnerships at a global agency, and then I missed the frontline music side of things, and I joined Various Artist Management literally 10 years ago this month.
Wow! Congratulations.
Which was great because it allowed me to take my brand partnerships experience, which I loved, and apply them. We were one of the first management companies to have our own partnerships section within the company, and also back to managing bands. And now I split my term between managing bands and doing looking after partnerships.
Perfect. So was it did you feel quite at the time when you thought, right, I'm going to give up the CV, and you went to reception and literally started working from like the kind of bottom up? Did you think I'm too old for this? Like, not to, did you because I've had that as well.
Yeah.
I
was now I look back and think I was crazy. I was like 24. But it was like, oh God, I was. And it was, everybody was telling me I was mad. My parents were furious. I had a really good salary. I was an assistant producer, about to make producer, but I had to follow my heart. I was like, you know what? I don't watch TV. I go out, I listen to music, and I just decided, it was more important to do something that I loved.
Sure.
For me. So but there were transferable skills.
Yes.
Which was great. So
and it's all about taking the risk, isn't it? It's like literally, if you've got the passion for it, take the risk, and you can't regret anything, can you? Really? No.
Yeah, and it was it was so much fun. Live TV is great. It's just a lot of work, and I've just worked out rather be paid for something I love doing, which was going out and seeing bands, and so that's what I did.
Perfect, cool. And Cathy, how did you get to where you are?
So, similar to Ronnie, I started off DJing at uni, promoting electronica nights. I then got a job at Good Looking Records, which was great because I loved my drum and bass. So I worked there for a bit for absolute peanuts. And then the boss was an absolute maniac, so I had to leave. And then I did a stint at T4 because I thought I wanted to explore the TV world as well. And then I was kind of drawn back to music, but realised I kind of had to start at the bottom. So I saw a role for the switch room at EMI, and I did reception, switch room stuff, and I just made sure I kind of made as many connections, met as many people, and learned what all the different departments did, who the different people were. And then I got the opportunity to manage an artist called Imelda May, who was very rockabilly, very niche. No one was really buying into it. But because I kind of made quite a few connections at EMI, there were quite a few relationships I could activate and use for Imelda. So that's when I kind of learned that in the music industry, it's definitely who you know. It can be really powerful to get to where you want to be. And then I moved on to some bigger management companies like Crown, Rocket, before it was Rocket, when it was 21st Artists. I worked with Stuart Camp, who manages Ed Sheeran and Todd Interland, and learnt a lot from those guys. SDG International. And then I kind of felt that I was in a position where I knew enough about the industry and I had enough of a network to do it independently. So set up about 3 years ago.
Sounds good. So there seems to be a similar kind of like line across all your stories, which is really good. Like, there you go. So someone's, it's and this is the questions that people are going to ask. It's not. It is a lot of luck, but a great deal of hard work. Celina, how did you get into the industry?
I'll take a bit of everybody's and put that into mine, really. So I went to college and I was studying media studies. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I came from a place where there was no such thing as a job in music. Nobody ever told me I could do a job in music. I was actually told that it was impossible for me to be a graphic designer. It's like I came from a place that they were like, you can't be a graphic designer. That's like 1 in a million chance, So I went to media studies and I was really into the TV side and kind of like the music side. But I started doing work experience, and I was in a TV station and in a radio station. Basically didn't sleep, and I was like doing the breakfast show. Then I'd run to Granada TV, and in between my college work, my college said I had to either leave or finish all my work experience. So I had to make that decision to just pack up college and put everything into my work experience. I basically did every single job in the world. There wasn't a job I couldn't do. I was reading. We didn't even have internet back then. I show my age, but there's like to use a computer, there was a manual this big. And I remember staying up every single night and reading the manual and taking notes. It wasn't like just Googling. So I ended up being a radio producer for Galaxy, which is now Capital, for the whole network at age 18, because from 17 to 18, I didn't sleep, basically.
That's amazing achievement at that age.
To go from 14, 15, being told I'd never be a graphic designer, to be a radio producer for the whole of the Galaxy network at 18 so it kind of showed me that anything is possible. And then the more that you win, the more you want to play, right? So I just kept going, really, without even thinking about it. I look back now and I'm like, I was crazy, but I'm kind of a little bit more balanced now. It's just, I had a one-track mind and went for it. And long story short, I ended up in London. I worked for Sony Music. I worked my way up from junior product manager to marketing manager. And then Sony BMG merged, and I was really unhappy. It all changed. I had double the roster and half the people. And somebody said, why don't you be a manager? And I was like, how do I do that? They were like, be a tour manager first. So I basically sold everything. I bought a Chrysler Voyager, bought a website and some business cards. I was like, I'm a tour manager. So the long story again, that was probably 10 years ago. And I've just been I'm still building, I'm still learning. I'm still, I do something new every single year probably. And then tour management, the last 3 years, I was touring nonstop, no sleep. And I got back in December after 3 years of being on the road, doing the whole world. And then I was like, yes, I'm at home. And then COVID hit and I'm still at home. So, and I just switched my whole focus from March this year to now to complete digital. And I've been doing studying, I've been doing Google certificates. I have about 5 new skills since COVID. It's great.
That's the way to do it.
COVID's not great. Sorry.
No. But there's always take a positive from a negative, isn't it? And just whilst we're on this lockdown, the best way to kind of boost yourselves is to do more learning and more contacts and everything like that. Just another question. We've got people from Nashville, Baltimore in the building. We've got Howdy from Texas. This is great. Hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Just another question on the career path whilst we're on it, and then we'll move on to the actual artist and producer side of things. How do you deal with management agencies and A&R and labels? There's such an immense list of tasks to do on a daily basis, and you've got a roster of artists. How do you deal with your huge list every day? And I'll go around again. Kat, how do you deal with that? Like the never-ending list?
I think the first thing is to accept that it is literally never ending and you will never do all of it. And that is okay. So you have to learn to prioritize. Because you just won't do all of it. So you have to work out what things are important, what order they should be done in. And also the other piece of advice that I would give is if there's something that's going to take you a really, really long time to do, but you know a really clever person who could do it much quicker than you, don't be precious about it. Don't think you have to do everything. Like, that's the point of having a team. Putting the right team around an artist is so that you don't waste all your time doing things that aren't maybe your specialism. Like, there are so many elements to an artist's career that you as a manager will be involved in, and you can't be an expert in all of them. So find the best people who can do the bits that maybe it's not the best use of your time, because you have to put a value on your own time when you have so little of it and there is so much to do. So, I mean, I think certainly earlier on in my career, I used to get very stressed. I'm a total list person. I would never, ever get to the end of my lists ever. And I would be spending all my time making the new ones for the next day. You're not going to do everything. You're just not going to do everything. Accept that you're not going to do everything, but work out what are the most important things and the most urgent things, which is not at all the same thing, and try and work out how to prioritize and who you need on your team to make it happen.
That's perfect advice. And Erin, how about yourself? I mean, when you've got, perhaps if you're just working on your own and you haven't got a team around you, how would you balance that?
Yeah, so one of the big lessons I've learned in the past few years as the company's been growing is how to automate tasks. So anything that repeats, if you know every time an artist sets a release date, well, 200 things have to happen before that, and they're usually pretty much on some sort of schedule. Like, this has to happen 3 months out, this has to happen 2 months out. So there's a great service we use called Zapier, where you can basically, like, even if you don't know coding, you can go in and you can tell it, when I put a tour date here, send a task here, and automate all of that. And so we use a combination of Zapier and Asana, which is a project management system. And there's all kinds, the Monday, and there's a bunch of them, but we use Asana because it integrates really well with Zapier. So it really helps me stay organized, because there are things in management that, we always do certain things when a tour date is announced or a tour is announced. We always do certain things when a release is announced. And so anything that can be automated, that saves me so much time when we've got it automated. And, obviously prioritizing is a really important piece of that. So I don't always do everything that's automated or all the tasks that are assigned to me, but it's really helpful to not have to keep all of that in my brain space. Exactly.
It's to stop you from being overwhelmed, isn't it? And yeah, there's a kind of question, query that's come through from Georgia Carter. Have any of you got kids?
Yeah.
Right. So here's a question, because it's that balance, isn't it? A lot of the, I know personal experience, a lot of women I know in the music industry, the majority, not all, including myself, don't have children. It's whether it was a choice between the music industry and having children. But Georgia said, do any of you juggle your amazing careers with raising kids? How do you know how to do that? So Cathy, that one's for you.
Okay, it is stressful. My hair is really grey because it's a real juggling act. And I mean, look, the good thing about it is you do focus, and having a kid, you're like, it does force you to focus on what's important. And a lot of the stuff in the music industry and the conversations you had, there's a lot of wasting time. So it kind of helps you streamline what's the long-term plan here with the people I'm working with. It helps you cut the fat quicker. And I just feel like it's a big juggling act. But, I've got a good support system, so it's doable. You just get tired all the time.
Yeah, and Ronnie, you said that everyone said hardly any sleep. I mean, how do you look after yourself? I know that you've got an extra line, haven't you, of kind of wellness and everything. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I kind of stopped partying a few years ago for the most part. Yeah, because it's a choice, because it's quite so hard to get caught up in it, and it is hard. It's easy to forget about looking after yourself when your whole time is spent looking after other people in an industry that's built on going out. So it's kind of combine all that stuff, that your own health can take a real back burner. So I quit drinking, and I got very much into, I studied psychotherapy and coaching, and added another string to my bow, which has actually really helped my management skills a little bit as well. And just helped me look after myself a little bit better as well, because it's just we have 29 bands on our roster, and we're quite an old school management company in terms of the sort of partying side of things. So, but yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, it's nice to see it all from another side, and to I now coach other managers and coach artists who are potentially suffering from mental health problems or substance abuse of any sort. So yeah, it's another very essential skill that I just felt was going to help me and help my artists.
Yeah, it's really relevant and really needed. And Celina, do you still go between the UK and the US? Like, how do you manage that?
I did do. So I was touring a lot last year. I was with an artist called FKJ, and we did massive European festivals. So I based myself in my mum's house in Essex for like 6 months last year. But I mean, I didn't see anyone or anything. I was on planes all the time and flying back and forth. And but yeah, I try and go back as much as possible. But I'd like to stay living here.
Right, fair enough. Fair enough. So we'll go into a few questions now because we've had a lot coming through on the chat, and then also what came through on Instagram earlier this week about artists and producers, and how you individually and your teams look after them, and how actually people get a route into working with labels and or management. So if I put this to Celina first, what do you think comes first, A&R or management? Do you go for a label first, or do you go for management first?
It totally depends on the person that is around that's willing to be part of your team. And, you might find somebody that's more music kind of driven that can help you take the songs or put you in sessions or anything, or you might find a manager, who has that skill, So it just depends, there's not a lot of people that will work for free unless they're still building their career as well. So you haven't got a lot of choices. But if you find some success, then, managers are more likely to work with you because they get a percentage of your income, and it can take a lot of years, a lot of years for any artist to make money. So it's just about finding the right person, whatever they can be. They could be a creative that's helping you make videos. I think you just got to try and pump up your team in any way.
Right, sure. And in terms of at what point in your career, Cathy, I'll put this towards you, as an artist or producer, at what point in your career would you start looking for this team, especially like, going to an A&R rep or trying to find a manager or a management company?
I mean, I think when you're ready to progress your career and really establish yourself in the industry, I think that's the time when you need to look at building your team. I mean, I think another person to add to the mix is a good music lawyer. They can really help connect you with the right people and give you further advice that a manager can also give. But yeah, I think you've got to be at a point where you know where you want to go, you know what your long-term plan is, and and then you look at who your team should be.
Okay, fair enough. And Ronnie, I know this will be a question from a lot of people. It hasn't popped up, but I'm just kind of preempting. What if you have no money? And what if you have no money to pay a manager or to pay, a team that you need to take you to the next step, but you're ready? What would you suggest someone does?
Well, yeah, it's a good question for me. It's none of my money. I suppose, for me, it's about taking a risk on talent. I'm fortunate to be part of a larger management company, and I'm a partner a bit like, I suppose, where a lawyer firm works. We have put money in the pot, we share money, etc., so forth. But yeah, I take a risk on a lot of artists, and yeah, it's about having that belief really in them and knowing that they'll be able, they'll work hard and they understand, how much that I'm putting in and my team are putting in and how much I expect back from them, especially in those early stages. And I've dropped a lot of artists, in that development phase who aren't willing to put in the hard work. And then obviously as things change and money comes in, it's funny, it's interesting to watch how artists themselves change. But yeah, that's part of the game. But making money these days for artists, making money out of being in the music industry is utterly impossible. It's possible, but it's very difficult. There used to be 100 artists making £1 million. There's now 1 million artists making £100. And I have to be very honest with a lot of artists about how difficult it is. There's 3-4 million tracks being uploaded every month, and there's a lot of great singer-songwriters, great bands. Trying to find that USP, that thing that makes it out from the rest. But it's challenging, especially with no live music now anymore. It's like the Krypton factor.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's the the days of finding bands online. Oh, what was that? It's completely gone out of my head now. What was that? That website, MySpace. Thank you. Yeah, those days have gone, isn't it? Where A&R could actually look at MySpace and find upcoming like with certain bands. So Erin, do you actually go out and look for artists to represent rather than them coming to you?
I do. I kind of have a combination of when I'm at a place that I have time and I have space on my roster and I think, okay, it's time to go sign someone new. My first step is actually to reach out to my other contacts in the industry. I think, as Cathy said, I reach out to music lawyers and I say, do you have any great clients that are looking for a manager? Or I reach out to labels I have a friendship with or agents and that kind of thing. And I start there because usually if they're aware of someone that person is kind of buzzing and growing and might make sense for management. And then my other trick as I get older and I don't want to go to shows until late at night, I send my young interns and I say, hey, go check out all these bands. You stay out till 1 a.m. and report back the next morning if something was good enough that I need to go look at it the next time they play.
Okay, that sounds good. So it's not literally, it's because with all the like you said, all the uploads, all the information, all the bands, all the producers now on the internet, it's such a saturated scene that it's hard for anyone to kind of get above the rest. But if you're going out, if management companies are still going out like they used to, like A&R used to, going to the shows and going to the gigs, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are still in it because we love music. So that's my favorite part of my job, is when my job for the night is to go to a show and go see live music. Hopefully that comes back soon, but I think that's a big part of it. And I think also, I just wanted to tack on to one of the answers earlier that if you don't have money, that's fine. Then what you do have is time, hopefully, or you can carve out some time and use that time to go find your fans online, and use that time to go share your music anywhere you can, and upload things to YouTube, and take the online YouTube Google classes so you know how to promote your music on YouTube, or you know how to promote stuff. Obviously, if you have an ad budget, that's great, but if you don't, you can compensate for that by putting in the hard work and doing the hours. And if you can do that and grow your awareness and grow your fan base, then managers are going to take notice and they're going to see that something's growing. So I don't think it's an issue necessarily of having the cash to do it. It's an issue of having the work ethic to do it.
Yeah. Kathy?
To add to that, there's great organizations out there that help independent artists. PRS do funding.
Yeah.
Momentum. What's the other one? Women.
So in America it'd be ASCAP, wouldn't it? Same sort of thing. Is it ASCAP, PRS? Is it similar kind of
Yeah, they don't have funding here the same way as Canada and the UK now.
And I just think that there's a lot of noise out there to cut through, but it is a great time to be an artist, and there is a lot of opportunity for an artist to go direct to the fan if but they need to know what they're all the social media channels, how best to use them, and they need to cut through the noise somehow. And it is hard, but there's a lot more opportunity for an artist now. I really believe that.
Good. That's good to hear as well, especially like we said with all the saturation, all the noise, you've just got to cut through it. And Kat, what do you, in terms of when you kind of spot an artist or producer that you like the look of, do you look at their social media levels? Do you look at their engagement and see that they're already doing the work for themselves before you would approach them?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There is so much data out there now, and so it is part of our job to know how to interpret that data and see what is genuine and what is a genuine buzz, who's actually out there creating some noise, as Erin said. But it is very easy to get distracted by stats and forget that actually the most important thing is the music. Like, the most important thing is if I believe in the music that someone's making and who they are as a person, if it's a great voice or, someone who I want to listen to, whose opinions I want to hear about stuff, who I would want to read an interview with. Like, that to me is much more important. Like, obviously it's important that they're going to work and have the work ethic, because I do agree that there are so many opportunities for artists now, but it is difficult to cut through, and you have to be willing to work, because your job as an artist is so much greater now, because you have that responsibility of being able to communicate directly with your fans and build up your fan base online and do a lot of that work in the way that you wouldn't necessarily have previously. And so your job isn't done when you deliver the music, and your job isn't done when you get a manager or when you get a team. You can't just expect that they're going to then take all that on for you. So I think the stats are important, because it is really important to see what's going on, and that that they are beginning to get some kind of a following. But for me, it's always about whether I like the music.
Sure. That's good advice. And just kind of delving more into how artists and producers will get that kind of that break. So you don't have to mention names if you don't want to, but if you could individually say like about a story, recent or past, about how you found someone that was completely emerging, completely unknown, and you brought them up and you kind of you discovered them and launched them. Can you off the top of your head? So I've really kind of thrown that one in there, haven't I? Celina.
So the artist that I manage right now, I've been with him for 5 years since I moved to LA. He was in a band, and I literally searched online for LA band. I'd just moved to LA and I was doing a show at Soho House and I needed a band. And he just moved from New York to LA. So he just made a new profile. So it popped up first. I heard his music. If I listen back to the music now, I could hear something, but it was really, really rough, I went to see him the next day. There was one person in the audience in Harvell's in Santa Monica. That was 2015. At the end of 2017, 2017, his band went out with Barnes Courtney through Ronnie on tour through America, and he sold out the Roxy in LA 2 years later. Now we've had to start again because he's gone solo, and we're doing it again. We only just started in February, but yeah, it was completely from scratch.
That's amazing. So literally just from like people are asking like, how did you get noticed? Just from a profile online, and you happened to search band in LA.
It was the music.
Yeah.
We wanted to start with music.
Exactly. And you were searching for that. It's just the right time, the right place, and it just happened. Yeah. Kathy, how about you? Have you got an example of where you literally found someone from kind of grassroots?
I think I found an LA band called The Swoons, and I saw the pianist was a guy called Tony Ann, and he is an absolute genius. And I just saw these kind of videos, these arrangements he did, and as a result of these arrangements, he got picked up by the Chainsmokers and went on tour with them. And I kind of followed his path, and then he formed a band called The Swoons, and these guys are all from Berkeley and Boston, and they're so talented, and they've kind of been developing their story for the last few years. But last year, we kind of got to a point where they really understood their identity, their sound, where they wanted to go with it, and who their audience was. And, they flew to London, they did a Live Nation promoted show. They had every live agent fighting over them. And they ended up going in the studio with people like Ed White, Sasha Starbeck, Jim Jin, Mark Crew, and had deals at the end of the year. And, it's taken a lot of hard work. I think Ronnie said, artists don't get to where they're going to get without putting the work in themselves now. And you can't just put out one song and make it. It's got to be a bunch of material before it really connects. And and they're still at the stage where they're building their story and they're putting music out. But it's really exciting to see their journey and where they're at now. They've got Billie Eilish's lawyer on board, and it feels good. It feels like the hard work's paying off now.
That's good. And just on that side, and actually, because kind of interject it into your own stories as well. Obviously, management. Forgive me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong. It's generally a percentage of the artist's earnings or the producer's earnings. So if they're earning nothing, the management company or the manager gets nothing. So you've got to put a lot of your faith and your time into that development before you start to reap the rewards for your own company or your own revenue as well.
Yeah, it's a real gamble. Like sometimes you have to know when to cut your losses on something and go, right, I need to stop working on this now. And it's really hard because you've put in so much work on an act sometimes. And to let it go is like, no, I've just, what happens if they get signed next week? I'll be so gutted. But I think you've just got to really follow your instinct on it and how much you believe in it and how much the artist is willing to work. But it is, it is a gamble at the end of the day, especially at the beginning stages.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. And I think from the artist's point of view, is then keeping that relationship with your manager, just making sure that your manager knows that you're putting in every effort you can and you've got every passion there, and keeping your, like you said, your own brand and your story on a good line. Ronnie, how about you? Have you got a story of a band that you or band, group, artist, producer, DJ that you found from grassroots?
Yeah, I suppose, picking up from what Celina said, just Barnes Courtney. Was literally, we picked him up on the back of a one song, and off the back of that one song, I mean, the song was phenomenal. We literally, and it's not really, it doesn't happen that often, but we had every management, every label, publisher, agent pitching, everybody went mad over it. And the song was that special. We hadn't even inked the deal on our deal with Virgin Online. It got picked up for a major film sync, and literally within a couple of months, we were flying to New York to a premiere of a Bradley Cooper movie for this track, and it was literally, I mean, it was 5 years of going. We went to LA to do a show. There were 4 people at it, and then 3 years later, we were at a sellout show. Supporting all sorts of artists. But it was a lot of work mentally. But yeah, that was off the back of, and it was the track was actually sort of 2 cobbled together demos. It wasn't even a sort of a full track, but it was that magic, and he was just had that thing. So that was definitely grassroots and up.
Okay, cool. Where are we now? Erin, have I asked you that question about grassroots? No. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, and I've been sitting here racking my brain as y'all are going through these stories. I'm own my own company, a super boutique management company. So I'm in a position where I don't have any one client that is making $1 million yet. And so I need each of my clients to, from day one, have something coming in. So I think that's why I was saying earlier, like, go put in the work so that I can come in and say, okay, you're earning a little bit every month. Let me help you quadruple that. But at least there's something here that I can commission. But my real success story that I'm really proud of is I worked with a client that had actually previously been signed to Sony. Sony put, I would guess, $1 million into promoting this band, and it didn't work. And they dropped the band. And when I met the band, they had just declared bankruptcy and kind of had hit hard times. And so it was a really great story about, it's about the right team. It's not just about flashy names and cool labels and money. It's you have to find the right people to market your music. So when, before me, the band had been signed to a major label and were being booked by William Morris. And then I met them and we went to a small independent label and went to a small independent booking company based in Nashville and, grew them to $500,000 within 2 years
Wow.
you know, grossing, and they went on to be nominated for a Grammy and like grew from that. So I wouldn't say grassroots because someone else put $1 million into it before I got there, but it was a really fun experience to say, oh wow, some of these, you know, players in this space didn't know what to do with this, and I got to come along and help figure out what to do with it and find the home for it that made sense, which was
it's a huge compliment for both sides, because for the band not to give up, you know, you're saying that tipping bankruptcy,
right?
And you know, you could literally just give up then, couldn't you? Like, how much stress would that be?
Right.
And then for you to put the trust in that as well, and to know that there was something there that the bigger players didn't see or couldn't deal with, that's brilliant. That's really good.
Right.
So that not giving up and finding the right people to work with.
Absolutely.
Even if you make mistakes and you fail, but actually the failures, you have to fail before you succeed, right?
Right.
So,
absolutely.
And Kat, have you got a story from grassroots?
Well, actually, I was going to pick up on what Erin said, and that my experience is quite similar. For me, the really exciting thing is helping an artist to achieve what their particular goals are, which is everybody's view of success is completely different, and what they want to achieve is not, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, huge shows, huge amounts of money. You know, it could be more that, you know, I really want my music to be featured on this radio show, or, you know, it would be so exciting for me to tour with this person. And for me, that's much more, you know, I'm not sort of sat there with a big cigar going, oh, I'm going to make you a star. Like, that's just not my style. It's much more like that's Ronnie. No, I'm much more like, I want to get to know my artists, my clients, find out what is their dream and their aspiration, and help them to achieve that. And sometimes that means it takes a long time before we make any money. And I'm fortunate that I am part of a bigger company that allows me to take a risk on things that I believe in artistically. A lot of people are not in that position because, you know, as we've said before, it can take years as a manager before your artist is making enough money that you're making any money, because, you know, we commission on profit. So once, you know, if our clients aren't making money, we don't make any money. But, you know, luckily for me, I work at a place where, you know, we've had big artists, we've had big success. So we are able to take chances on people whose goals may not be huge money earners, but will be things that we believe in and we really want to make happen. So for me, rather than kind of picking something up from grassroots and making it massive, I get much more kind of excitement and pleasure out of helping people to achieve goals that are maybe not quite so impressive to the outside, but for me, that's what's really exciting.
That's good. That's good to know as well, because it means, you know, I mean, every manager has the goals to make their artist successful, but it's that level of success that the artist wants. You can't push them somewhere they don't want to go.
Yeah, I think it's just that success means different things to different artists, and it's really important to find the right team who share your vision and your values. And, you know, because sometimes you've got to accept that maybe you want something as a manager, right? There have been things that I think should do something that maybe the artist didn't want to do, and that wasn't where they saw themselves. And ultimately you have to go, okay, maybe I'm not the right person for this, because our belief is, you know, it doesn't match up here, right? You know, often I might think that you can do more than maybe you're willing to do. You know, you don't want to make it 100% of your life. You know, you've got other priorities. That's totally fine. But make sure that you're working with people that share that and you're on the same page. And that's not to say that your manager can't push you, because we should be doing that. We should be pushing our artists to achieve what we believe they can achieve. But, you know, within reason, depending what they want to do.
Sure. And there's a question here that I think is quite relevant. So Michelle also knows, I'll put this up, but it's going to actually get rid of a lot of you, I think, if I put this question up. Look, here we go. Oh, no, there you go. We can all see each other. So Michelle, always hear that managers already have full rosters and no room for more. What is the best way for an artist to connect with established management if they always have their hands full? So I don't know, you want to answer that, Kat?
I mean, I'll let you in on a little secret. If they say their roster is full, it probably just means they're not into it enough. We all make space if we hear something that is so exciting that we can't turn it down. So, I mean, we are busy. Everybody is busy. But as I say, if you hear something that is so exciting that you couldn't bear another manager to be working with it, you will find space.
Right. And does everyone agree on that one? It's just literally categoric.
You gave our secret away.
Yes. Well, it's a good tip to give. Thanks for that, Michelle. And here we go. it's not a question, but it's a great feedback. Don't have a question. This is from Jacob. I want to say that it's rad that you're showcasing these women and their voices, expertise. So thanks, Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob.
Nice one. So yes, I had a question that was on Instagram, and I'm not sure how many of you work with producers. I know that Kat does, and I guess Ronnie, you might work with producers, but just put your hands up. Who works with producers as well as artists? Oh, you all do. Okay, pretty much. So here's a question from Instagram. As a female producer, I find it hard to get placement or to be taken seriously. Any advice? That's a big question, but it's kind of like it's the balance of there are more male producers out there. How does a female producer get herself taken seriously by management or A&R? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I've got something. I manage an artist who is also a songwriter, but I mean, in general, I think it's so competitive, and there's always an excuse. It doesn't matter what the excuse is. You go to radio, it's, oh, this is like this. Oh, I'm looking for something. There's always an excuse, right? So that is one of the excuses. And I think if you're working harder than anybody and you're pushing that bar and pushing that bar and pushing that bar, one day somebody will take a chance on you. And if you can stop the noise of why you're not making it and think about how I'm going to make it and just stay that tunnel vision, then you'll make it one day. We all don't make it, most people don't make it.
Yeah, and I think as well for me, for young producers, I'm always looking for really exciting producers, and I love it when young producers, female or male, but ask me for the parts to a track, or if I'm looking after any new artists that they could have a go on, etc. So forth. It's, asking. When you sometimes ask them, the most exciting new producers I've worked with, because people have reached out and said, "Listen, can I? Have you got any?" And it's great. Sometimes it's awful, and a couple of times it's been absolutely amazing. So take that risk. Ask email managers and ask them if there's stuff that you can work on, and knock on those doors. Your work will speak for itself.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. As a producer, just get yourself out there and keep on asking. I know that you all wanted to say something there. Erin, what do you want to say about that?
I wanted to say that I think that sometimes as women we tend to downplay our experience or our worth. And I have come to believe that people think you're worth what you ask. And so sometimes, I don't know this person who asked the question, but maybe if you take yourself seriously and you say, this is what my rate is, and you don't kind of hem and haw and say, I'll just make it work for whatever. I find that when I work with male producers, they say, this is what my rate is. And obviously everyone negotiates sometime, but they put a stake in the ground and say, this is where we're starting from, because this is what my time is worth. And I think that I do this myself. I tend to back off from that, and I don't just always confidently start with, this is what my time is worth. So to that person who asked that question, that could be something that could help you kind of be taken seriously in that space.
Sure. And Kat?
Yeah, I was just going to say the other thing is I do think it is difficult. It is still a difficult space for women and gender minorities. It is difficult, but there are a lot of women who manage producers. There are a lot of people who I admire, who I've learned an awful lot from, who have made a career out of managing producers. So there shouldn't be, not to say because we're women we only have to work with women, but in terms of finding representation, it's about finding a team, just with everything else we're saying, it's about finding a team that believe in you, that are going to push you as hard as any of their clients, regardless of their gender. And so, just find the right people to work with, and I completely agree with Erin about, making sure you know what your worth is. And that doesn't mean you can't do favors for people. As Ronnie says, reach out to people and do something on spec, show them what you can do. It's such a great way to show off your talent and show that you're totally capable. But yeah, just find the right people.
Sure.
Also, to add to that, just kind of reach out to other songwriters, other top liners, artists starting out. Just do as you can reach out to people directly now on Instagram and Facebook, and just kind of build your creative team as well. And you never know what will happen with an artist, or how connected a top liner is that you're working with. So just reach. people.
And also that is even more the case now than it has been ever. Like certainly, you know, most of the producers that I work with have had quite a lot of time over this summer where they haven't been able to do the work that they would normally do. They haven't been able to go to the studio, or they haven't been able to adequately socially distance at their studio. And the people that are being successful are people that are reaching out and making collaborations. And so you might actually find at the moment that, you know, you have your dream collaborator, you wouldn't dare kind of normally reach out to them. Just try at the moment, because the worst they can do is just not get back to you. But people are so open to collaboration right now, more so than any time during my career so far. So it's an exciting time to just see if you can work with people.
Sure. And then you've got, because of that collaboration and the networking and working together as a producer, as an artist, you've then got a team in yourselves anyway. You've got that kind of support already. Then kind of, you know, go to management or go to A&R or whatever and try and get the next step. So Georgie Carter, sorry if this has been answered already, but do any of you manage DJs? So that's a good one, because I think the question here is, to be a successful DJ, do you have to produce as well in the eyes of management?
It helps, I think.
Yeah, just because you can't just be playing out so much tunes and be successful anymore, can you? I think, Ronnie, do you want to answer that one?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I managed. I was in that dance world a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, I was at dance label. All of our artists, for the most part, were also DJs. And obviously, having more strings to your bow is always useful. But yeah, it's not a world I'm that down with now. So
yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely say it definitely helps. And I mean, I know a lot of DJs, and I kind of don't really know any who can't produce or remix or, you know.
Exactly. It used to be, I think it used to be, you know, DJs used to, back in the day, where you could make a career out of just DJing. But I think, Georgie, the answer is, you know, if you don't produce already, learn to produce, because, you know, then you can DJ, then you can play out your own music, and it's a perfect showcase. So, yeah. So we've had, let's have a look. Oh, here's a good one. Sophia, what's your take on older artists? I think we'll answer this question, have one more, and then we'll wrap it up, because we've gone to an hour already. But we'll go through. Celina, what's your take on older artists?
Depends on the music and the vibe and what it is.
Fair enough. Cathy?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a jazz artist, fine. If it's a kind of techno artist, I'm not sure you want a 65-year-old guy wobbling around to that. I think it comes down to the music ultimately, and the genre, the space you're in, really.
Sure. Okay. And Ronnie?
Yeah, it's something I think is really unfair, that, you know, and it's terrible. It's something I'm really guilty of. You know, I don't look at our new artists, if they're over, it's getting worse, if they're over the age of 18, the younger they are, especially from, you know, starting them out, the better. But, you know, like everything else, it's like, what? It's a bit unfair just because you're over the age of 30, you can't kind of, why? What's the, you know, less musically talented, and it's something, you know, I'd like to see change, but I'm guilty of being, you know, perpetrating it possibly. Because when I look at new artists, I mean, just because I know in order to commercially sell them, that's what, you know, they need to be. Now, that said, we look after, you know, in terms of, we've got a lot of older artists on our roster, but they tend to be artists who've been around. So we do Killing Joke, have been obviously in the industry for 50 years. But we do a lot of, we specialise in sort of older artists getting back together. We do Supergrass, Libertines, etc.
That's strange. It's strange that you're calling them older artists. Yeah. Isn't it weird, because they're kind of on the level with kind of age-wise? Like, oh God, right.
Yeah, I hate it if I heard it. Having loads of trouble. But yeah, I think for artists starting out, it is really tough, and you know, it's unfair. And in fact, I'm looking after a band now who are in their 30s, and they're on their 4th album, and it's a struggle. But you know, who knows? But yeah, it's tough. As again, and as you know, the other lady said, yeah, it's about music, I suppose.
Yeah, but music and marketability, though, isn't it? Which is what we're going to do next session. But it is to do that, and like you said, like we'd like to live in a perfect world where it wouldn't matter, but it is about that marketability. Erin, what are your thoughts? Oh, sorry, Kat.
Sorry, I would also just say that, you know, it's unfortunate to have to say this, but it is very different if you're a woman or a gender minority than if you're a man. If you're an older artist, like it just is. It's much harder. They, you know, kind of generally, I would say everything is much more sexist towards older women. And so, you know, I would love to say it's all about the music and it doesn't matter who you are and what age you are, but it is going to be harder. But, you know, in terms of just what's your take on older artists in general, it depends what you mean by older artists. But like one of the most exciting kind of management relationships I've had has been since I took on a band called We Are Scientists, who had a lot of success, and then, you know, had sort of kind of plateaued at a certain level, and they were looking for a new manager, and they took a chance on me, and we've had a brilliant time working together. And, you know, they're older than me, but it's just been the most fun, and we've had a great time. So it's definitely something that you know, wouldn't stop me working with someone at all.
Okay, good stuff. And
Erin, they would hate being referred to as older artists, so I hope they're
not. exactly. I mean, taking 30 is older. It's just crazy. But Erin, I mean, because of the genre that you work in, is there older artists in there?
Yes, and that was what I was going to say. That's one of the things I really love about Americana and folk music, is it's so much about the song and the story and the emotion that the people can, you know, the artists can pull out, you know, in their art. So I'm sure there's still a little bit of that, but I think for Americana and folk, the age thing is more about, do you have the time to put in the 10 years it takes to get to the place where you have some recognition and you can put out 4 albums and keep doing this and keep investing in it. So it's a little bit easier when you're 22 to live on not very much money and sleep on the floor when you're trying to tour. It's much harder when you're 40 to do that and to want to do that. So I think that's part of it.
Exactly. That's good. And we've had, God, so many comments. Here we go. So we've had Presley Townsend hopping off lunch break over, but thanks for the insight. Very impressive roster of women. There you go. They'll be looking you up on LinkedIn. That's good to know. And then Jen M says, thanks for this. I'm a complete newbie to this world, but finally taking the plunge and looking into it. I'm so inspired by all of you. So brilliant stuff. And here we go. And then Fernandez, but this is the best. So awesome. I think we'll end with the final questions. We're literally just over the hour now. In what tip would you give a artist or producer that's been working so hard during lockdown, how to get out there while we still can't have events? Obviously, both US, UK, all over the world, we can't do events. The We Make Events project and support is trying to move forward with getting kind of government support and funding. But what tip would you give a emerging artist now in this environment of the next step to their career? Kat.
It's a really, really hard time to be an emerging artist right now, because all of the kind of normal strategies that we would put in place don't really exist. So it's about being open to what the possibilities are and looking for opportunities. And how do you, because obviously you can still release music, you can still make music at home. As I say, so many producers and writers and mixers are up for collaborating remotely. There are ways to get your tracks finished if you're maybe not the greatest bedroom producer, but if you can work on a song at home, there's still ways to do it. And, you know, everyone is at home listening to music, you know, whether you're locked down or not. You know, more people are listening to the radio than ever. So it's about trying to make something happen while you can't go out and do the things you would normally do. And it's really tough. And I'm spending a lot of time talking to artists who are just finding it mentally really difficult, because, you know, you go, okay, brilliant, I've got all this time to create, but you're not feeling creative because you're feeling stressed about the state of the world and the fact that you're not making any money. You were meant to be on tour, you're meant to be. It's very, very hard for emerging artists that don't have a fan base to be able to reach out to people online. So it's all about trying to find ways to turn it into something positive, collaborate with people, reach out to people, find the gaps in your team. It's a good time to do that, and fill those gaps, and just try and keep making music.
Yeah, good advice. And Erin, how about you? What advice would you give during these times?
I have been advising my artists, and would advise any up and coming artists, to use this time to really engage with fans online. And I think especially in folk and Americana music, they're kind of technologically averse a lot of the times. And so my artists aren't all particularly great at social media, but I've been encouraging them to reframe it as, especially in this time, this is your way to connect with people. So envision it's like after the show, you're standing at the merch table, you stand there for an hour saying hi to everyone, hearing everyone's story. Go do that digitally. And it's harder, but go create those real engaging relationships online. And if you can do that, you know, you're converting fans for life, and they'll be there when the world opens back up and you can go back out and tour.
Sure, that's also awesome advice. And Ronnie, how about you? What would you say?
I think it's about thinking outside the box. thinking about things you can do that, to cut through the noise, because there's a lot of people out there. We've got an artist at the moment who's doing small shows out of a van, a van that folds out, and they just park up in crazy like caravans, like places like, and it's working within the parameters of what we can do right now. Another artist has toned in on the mental health side of and has launched an IGTV series outside of music on all about how that's helped, tips about how, that they've survived and coped. So coming up with ideas outside that can help grow place that aren't, that are maybe a little bit different, and working with, working
and like you said, yes, working with collaborating with people, working with people that are already doing stuff as well. And you never know who that artist that you collaborate or that producer you collaborate, they might know already. They might know one of you. You never know. Cathy, what would you say?
Yeah, I think, as Ronnie says, think outside the box. I saw this great thing on TikTok, actually, where there's this singer who wasn't getting work in the theatre world. So she stuck her head out of her apartment in New York and just sung her heart out, and as a result has just got loads of press, loads of job offers, and these videos are amazing, and it's literally just her thinking, what can I do that's a bit different, and that's ended up getting results. I think it's all about content, get as much stuff as you can out there. As a new artist, I remember hearing Darkus, who heads up Island, say, leave little breadcrumbs, little Easter eggs, clues about yourself. The more you can get out there, the better. And I also think with lockdown, there's been a bit of an opportunity for independent artists where a lot of major artist campaigns have been pulled back. So potentially you may get more attention from DVDs and press and broadcasters because you're not competing with those bigger names. So, it is the journey for an artist is, the reality is it's long and hard. There will be knockbacks, but you just have to kind of keep at it, and you really believe in your talent and you're good at what you do, you will get there in the end if you persevere. I truly believe that.
Perfect. That's really, really good advice, really positive. And Celina?
Just a bit of everything of that. I started lockdown. When the day it happened, I was like, what am I going to do? And I completely switched, and I started staying up at night and weekends and doing videos. So I went to do some, I usually pay people to do jobs. And then I went to go to do some digital advertising. It was like, yeah, you need a minimum of 10 grand. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to learn it myself. So I studied it all, and then I got in a rabbit hole, and I created a full CRM system and data capture system. So there's not one fan that I haven't captured their data, trying to, so that when the lockdown is finished, we can actually go out there and tour, and people, you can't see me now, but you can see me in 6 months. Like, think of anything you could possibly do. I created a podcast, you want to give reoccurring media without selling all the time. Give something for free, give some free downloads, try just graft. It's all about grafting all the time, no matter what the situation, you just shift your focus.
It is. And I think it's brilliant advice from all of you. Thank you so much. And so much good feedback here. We've got Estelle saying good points. We've got Invisible Culture saying loving it. Thanks, Adam Audio, for putting on the Pro Ladies in Music. So it's been brilliant to have you all join us for this A&R and management session. Thank you so much for being here. I think just as a last point, for any artist and producer out there, obviously you've got to reach your fans, but don't forget that A&R and managers will be looking at you too. If you're in the right space and if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Go get it.
Yes, exactly. Don't give up. All right. Thanks, ladies. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And just to remind everyone that we are back next Thursday for the marketing and social media and branding session. So that's next Thursday at 1 p.m. EDT and 6 p.m. BST on Adam Audio, Facebook and YouTube. So do join us then. Thank you. Bye-bye.